My mom was learning to sew when I was a baby. And so she used to take me when I was in my playpen to all the sewing classes. So I grew up around that all the time. So I always joke that I was born with a needle in my hand. I do remember ladies teaching me, and I couldn't have been very old, about how, because I learned to hand stitch certainly first, of how to cut my thread on an angle so it was easier to be able to thread a needle. I was really fortunate. I grew up around all of those people that sewed, and I grew up in New Jersey, and our home economist there was just a fabulous garment sewer. I remember going to this big auditorium somewhere and watching somebody make continuous bias binding and thinking it was like the coolest thing ever in the world.
We call you the bias queen today.
And so that, but it was all those sort of things that, unknowing to me, really made an impact on how I learned about sewing. So no one ever forced me to sew. My mom and this other lady, Trudy, used to judge loads of sewing contests, and they would always take me along. And so I got to be able to see what really beautiful garments look like. That ability to look at what a garment should look like from the outside, how it should hang, how it should lay, all those things that relate to your clipping and your pressing and understitching and all those little things that if you don't know about or you skip over, sometimes your garments don't look nice. But what I was so fortunate in my development of sewing was that people didn't force me to use any specific method. They didn't say, okay, you have to do it this way. It allowed me to really experiment with what gave me the best results. So you'll find that often we hear that now, and I probably didn't realize that I was doing it very different than most people until I started to teach here at Smile Spinners, and people would say to me, no one ever does it like that. It's because they allowed me to get a result instead of following a certain method. So I was able to play with that method until it really gave me the best results. And sometimes it was just a couple of steps more than what we would have normally been taught to do. So I think that it was the best thing ever that I didn't have like formal sewing training, because no one really forced certain methods on me.
So the earliest memory I have is being in the sewing room with you, Mom. I remember these little pink buttons. They were square and they looked like chiclets, and I was obsessed with them because I was 4 and they looked like gum. You made something for me that had to have these. Really, you let me pick the buttons. I don't remember. Do you remember what it was that you made?
I don't remember what it was,
okay,
but I do remember that not one of my buttons that should have been on a button card was on one, because Jessica would sneak them out of the button holder and pull them all off. And then she liked to do her signature.
Didn't I do like a little, I signed off on all of the buttons.
She did a little squiggle on all of them.
I always loved to pick the buttons and the fabrics, and then you made something, and like we always kind of designed together like that. And so I feel like it was kind of destiny, if you will, that I have, found a career in, being a design director, if you will, right? Where you're like choosing fabrics, you're helping people organize their projects. Like I've been doing that since the beginning. So it just makes so much sense that that was my start. You started to teach some girls that were older than me how to sew. And I looked up to them and I thought they were really cool. So I wanted to learn how to sew. And I'll never forget sitting in your sewing room, and you would be on one side and I was on the other side, and I would be like, okay, Mom, like, what do I do next? And you would say, okay, Jessica, read me the next step on the pattern. And so I would read it, and you were like, oh, that's stupid. We're not gonna do that. And I would be like, Mom, I'm never gonna learn how to sew. And you gave me some of the best advice at that point, and it was, use the pattern as a roadmap, but, sit with the pieces and learn all of the different ways there are to put in a zipper or set in a sleeve, or, whatever it was that we were sewing. You were like, there's so many ways that you can do, you can get to that end goal for your garment. Learn how to look at it and choose the best way, because sometimes the patterns don't tell you the best way, or they'll give you a really difficult, like they send you over the river and through the woods, right? That's something that totally translates 100% into everything we do at Smile Spinners and through our classes, through the patterns that we develop, through the patterns that we choose. We're like, okay, are these instructions really leading these people in the best direction? And if not, we're teaching you through our series of classes how to be analytical about the process through which you're making a project.